on, we are also going to, hello, there she is. And we are also going to be talking about, there you are, oh, there you go.
I'm here.
Hey, what to do if you're feeding Purina, and then what now, and then what to do moving forward. What the heck just happened to my background on Instagram? Nothing. Oh, I lost you.
And then what? This is so weird. What is happening right now?
I don't know what's going on. I lost you on Instagram.
I feel like I'm back. I don't know if I'm back. I'm gonna get out of here on Instagram.
Okay, so we're having all sorts of.
Is Mercury in retrograde right now?
No, that ended on the 1st.
Well, this is weird. I'm gonna have to. So my computer completely kaput right when we were about to go live. Like literally, just shut down.
So okay, for y'all on Instagram, because we have two conversations going on right now. Isabel thinks Mercury is in retrograde, but it is not. And
no, I just asked because that's what happens when things go this wrong.
It absolutely is. So I'm gonna try see if we can get you back in here. On Instagram. So we can.
But I'm like seeing you late. Request to join. Send request.
Okay, yeah.
And what were those? What are you celebrating with those fireworks?
I have no idea. I don't even know how I did that. I have no idea how I did that crazy firework background. So one of Doc's were FaceTiming yesterday, and a thumbs up went across. We were like, "What is it?" Yeah, I know. I don't know what's going on with in Instagram view request. Go live with. See if we can get you back in here. Yeah, maybe it was because I clapped my hands. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Maybe. Okay, we're in. I think we're in.
Woo! Yay. Okay. So I know, like, we're all fun and games, laughing, haha, joking, but this is actually very, very serious. Very, very serious. And I want to start out, Isabel, if you don't mind, by saying that yes, we're talking about things that pet parents are experiencing right now, live today, happening in the United States, Canada, the UK, and Ireland right now, or where reports are coming in from. There is no recall that has happened yet. However, I know it takes a while. Oh, there's a huge echo, she's saying. A huge echo. Sorry, guys. I don't hear the echo, so you'll have to let me know. If it continues, we're going to try to fix that. Okay. All right, let us know if it's still echoing. Do you hear an echo, Isabel? Oh, I don't hear you now. Okay, they're saying better. So it takes time. It takes time for, let's see. We definitely don't want an echo. Now they're saying still an echo. I have that volume all the way down. I have my headphones in here. I don't know what else to do. Yeah, I can't. Oh, well, it's saying you're muted on StreamYard, which is why I can't hear you. We'll get it figured out. Yeah, okay. I can't hear you. But let me.
The echo should be fine now because I have you only on my headphones. Everything else is off. Just let us know.
Yeah, okay. I can hear you now too. So yes, please let us know if there is still an echo, because we do want to fix that. Much better, they're saying. Perfect. So it takes time. Once reports of dogs or cats being sick or sadly dying start to come in, it takes time. In fact, back in 2019, I think it was, when Hills had the vitamin D excess, it took like upwards of at least 6 months before the FDA actually issued a recall on everything that was happening. And by that time, so many dogs had died. And that is not what we want. We want to be proactive. And the reality is that it is affecting so many different Purina formulas in both dog and cat that for me as a pet parent and for as an advocate for other pets, I would rather be safe than sorry and make changes now and not risk waiting. So just so we're clear from the start, we're not saying 100% anything one way or the other. We're saying there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of reports coming in just in one Facebook group so far. And that is cause for serious concern. And if you or anyone you know is feeding any Purina product, and we're going to go over the ones that we know are causing an issue and also give you a list of what all the Purina brands are so that you can be on the lookout. In my opinion, it is absolutely better to be safe than sorry, even if your dog or cat is not sick right now. We don't want it to get to that point. So, Isabel, thank you so much for letting me rant already. Oh, I can't hear you again.
Okay, let's try this. Can you hear me now?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, so these are all allegations. There is no proof. There is no study. The FDA is aware of these allegations and they have just started their investigation. So when we say Purina, we're not 100% sure that that's what it is. That is the common theme or the common, I guess, suspicion that these pet parents have all come to just from exchanging stories. So these are all alleged accusations of some kind of something making pets sick, and it's dogs and cats. I believe that dogs are being affected more so, like numbers wise. It seems like there are more dogs being affected than cats, but cats are not off the hook. So this is for a discussion for dog and cat parents. And like Jessica said, it's not just the US, it's pretty much anywhere where these particular products are being sold. And like, unless we know what product it is, which line it is, which batch it is, like we don't know enough to say these pets are safe, these pets are not. Like right now, this is just like the beginning of the investigation. And so we are obviously talking about what we're hearing from pet parents, and especially in that group where it seems that everybody's kind of congregated to discuss this. It's a health group for pet parents. It's not a recall group. It's not for this specific issue, but it just kind of has like people have ended up there just to discuss this. And there are a lot of things to discuss, like symptoms, next steps, how to cover yourself, class action suits, not donate these foods because obviously people are, you're going to be rid of it. What do you do with them? So we're going to talk about a lot of things, but just understanding that these are allegations, and like Jessica said, better safe than sorry. Like I'd rather throw away a $50 bag of Purina and realize that it was nothing to do with Purina than find out later that it was, and I was still feeding my pet this contaminated somehow food. So just know that the recommendation right now is if you are feeding, stop feeding this food. Period. End of story. I know it sounds wasteful. I know you're scared that your pet's going to get some kind of intestinal or gastrointestinal disruption. That is still better than the alternative. So
Absolutely.
first,
Absolutely.
if you are feeding any of the products that are made by Purina, for now, stop feeding it. And then we'll talk about next steps. But yeah. Even a veterinarian will tell you right now, stop feeding. I know it's not ideal. We usually transition, all that stuff, but this is one of those situations. Whenever there's a recall or suspected recall, it is advised that you just stop feeding that food.
Yeah, and I mean, the way things are going right now, it seems like there will be a recall, but again, is it going to be 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, we have no idea. And how many dogs and cats are going to get sick in the meantime? So the last I saw, and just so you guys know, the Facebook group, once we're done with this, I'll put a link to the Facebook group in my stories. I'll actually put multiple posts because I can only put one link per story, but I'll give you guys links to the Facebook group so you can follow along. If you have an animal that is currently eating Purina and you're suspecting that they may be sick, you can contact the admins and moderators in that group because they are collecting this data and information. It's called Saving Pets One Pet at a Time.
Yes.
And so as of this morning, I think the last update I saw was like 8 a.m. this morning. And so today is January 8th, and every day these numbers are going up. So that's why I'm like being very specific as to the last numbers I saw was 524 dogs and 141 cats are sick. 151 have died. And the common denominator between all of these animals is that they are all eating some form of Purina food. And it is multiple lines of Purina food. So do you want to start with symptoms? I have symptoms, or
No, you go ahead.
Okay.
I actually just put the link to the group in Facebook and on YouTube. So on our discussion over here, those are already there. And if you follow us on Facebook, on my personal profile, Isabel Alvarez Arata, I did share what Dr. Judy Morgan sent a few days ago, and that the group is linked in there as well if you want to like get on that right now.
Yeah, so Dr. Judy Morgan, Dr. Katie Woodley, they're both really wonderful vets to follow right now. I know Dr. Josie Bug has also been posting a lot about it. So again, US, Canada, UK, Ireland, stop feeding any Purina food. The symptoms that are being reported: lethargy, so your dog or cat is more tired than normal, vomiting, diarrhea, seizures, rapid weight loss, muscle weakness, excessive urination, rectal bleeding, vomiting blood, and their eyes are turning red and or yellow. And now it can be one or multiple of these symptoms. So yes, Coco the Oso, thank you. We are going to talk about what to do. She's saying just go raw or gently cook, and your pup will thank you later. And yes, we're gonna discuss next steps, and absolutely feeding a different food is part of the next steps. I do want to be as inclusive as possible with how we move forward because, yes, I absolutely would love to see every animal on a fresh food diet, whether that is raw or gently cooked. But we'll talk about some other things that we can do as well. So again, like I was saying, back in 2019, I don't even know. I was doing so much research that I didn't even get to the part where how many animals died back in 2019 before they issued the recall on the vitamin D excess from Hills, but it was up there. And that's actually how the Saving Pets One Pet at a Time group started. Was the person that started the group, their dog died from vitamin D excess from eating Hills food 2 weeks prior to the recall being issued. So that's why we're saying that, yes, there isn't a recall yet, but it is so much better to be safe now than to be sorry later and wait for a recall. Also, really importantly, I was talking to someone this morning and she was like, please bring this up. We forget or are not told, like for some reason, there's this like dogma of you find a food for your pet and you feed that to them the rest of their life. And that is not the case. Like we shouldn't be doing that anyway. We should be rotating at least every 3 months, different brands, different proteins. Even if you are feeding kibble, we should be rotating foods. So this isn't out of line with what we should be doing anyway. Like just be safe and let's switch to a different food.
Right. It shouldn't be as disruptive as people think it is. It really shouldn't be.
Yeah. And the thing is, if we are switching, let's say, from a kibble to a more gently processed food, we can see more GI upset because there's likely going to be some detox going on.
Yeah, and the enzymes. We talk about enzymes. Our body only creates those that they need. So if we're only
Yeah.
feeding the same food for 20 years, your dog's going to have that one set of enzymes that they need to process that food, not everything else. So yeah, you got to give it time. I mean, it's just like us transitioning to a completely different diet. We need time to, when you travel and you're exposed to different foods and different ingredients and different water, there's a transition there.
Right? Yes, Bronwyn, thank you for joining us, by the way.
Hi.
So there are some also when you do switch over, again, just to be safe, you don't want to be sorry, especially if your dog is experiencing symptoms. Please go to the Facebook group and report it. Bronwyn, who is watching now, Angela Ardolino and Dr. Loudon later this week are going to be doing a live video. Once I know exactly where that's going to be, I will share the link in my stories. It will likely be on Dr. Loudon's Facebook page, but they are going to be talking about detoxing and how to safely detox your animal if they are, whether they are or are not experiencing symptoms from eating Purina food, because there's actually some things that the veterinarians there's like 10 or so veterinarians behind this that are collecting all of this data right now. And so there are some things that aren't public. They want to keep this as professional as possible because this is a very serious issue. Nestle, who owns Purina, multi-billion-dollar business, things have to be done the right way and in the right order. So if you are feeding a Purina food, stop feeding it. Do not throw it away. Do not donate it. Keep it. If you have freezer space, to put it in the freezer. Keep the bag. You want the lot number. There are ways to get it tested if you want to get it tested. Find another food, and we'll talk a little bit more about finding another food in just a minute. But do it now. Do it today. Don't put one more scoop of Purina in the bowl.
And I have a list of the Purina brands in case those people who aren't quite sure. So I'm just going to go down this really quick list. Alpo, Beggin, that's their treat brand. I'd stop, even though it's not a food. I'd personally stop. Beneful, Beyond, Busy Bone, again, not a food, but a treat. There are Everroot, is a supplement brand owned by Purina. Just to be on the safe side. Fancy Feast, Friskies, Kitten Caboodle, Moist and Meaty, Prime. It's dog treats, and they're supposed to be natural, but they're owned by Purina. Cat Chow, Dog Chow, Purina One, Purina Pro Plan, Purina Pro Plan Veterinary Diets, Puppy Chow, and Whisker Lickens cat treats. Those are the ones that I've found. Obviously, they have other things that they do, like kitty litter. I don't think we need to go there, but any of those brands that are owned by Purina right now, I would personally, as a pet parent, stop feeding them. Why? Because a lot of these things are probably being sourced from the same place. So if there's an issue with one of the ingredients somewhere down the line, they may be being sourced from the same place. So if you already know that this is where the suspicion lies, then just kind of go cold turkey, eliminate everything. You can always add it later. And I will say that this is Purina now, but again, it's all about sourcing. So it could end up being more than just Purina down the line. Mm-hmm. So we're not like sitting here bad-mouthing Purina or saying that, that they're completely responsible. They may not be aware of anything. They could be one of their suppliers, and that supplier could be supplying to another brand. So this has the potential of becoming a really big, big thing. The idea wet food, dry food, whatever you're feeding from this brand, you should stop feeding, and just make sure that you're not switching from one Purina brand to another, right? Just eliminate that for now. You can always add it later if it's cleared. And you can also make sure that, like Jess said, keep the bag, the lot number, and the food. If you want to keep it for later and you want to reuse it later, I don't know how long this is going to take, so I don't know that it's realistic to think that you're going to be able to use that food once it's cleared. But if there's not enough room in your freezer to keep the whole bag, keep the bag and keep some of the food, at least. Because I know that not everybody can keep like a huge, 40-pound bag, but you want a sample of that bag and you want to make sure that you can prove that it came from that lot number. And this is dog and cat. Yes. So I just read off the brands. If you go to purina.com/brands, you'll see all the brands that I read off. And all of those are mixed. There are dog, cat, and cat treats and dog and cat food. And wet or dry, don't discriminate, just eliminate for now.
Absolutely. And I heard somewhere from someone at some point, who knows where at this point, that just a reminder that Purina makes 40 flora. So that might also be something we should eliminate for the time being. If your dog or cat is exhibiting symptoms and they are eating any food, period, like if they are exhibiting these symptoms, and they seem to be food related, because I have also heard there was a lot of food aversion when these batches started coming out, that dogs were just like, I've been feeding you this for however long, and now they're like, no, I don't want to eat it, right?
Makes sense.
So I did hear, and that's not necessarily always going to be the case, because especially with dogs, they're just not as discriminating as cats are.
And honestly, like it may be something that they can't pick up on, right? Like if there's something wrong that doesn't alter the smell or the taste, then there's no way that they would know. But I always think, like, let's trust the pet. If the pet all of a sudden has been eating the same food and all of a sudden they won't touch that food, maybe buy a new bag. And if that's still the case, then, start researching there. But it could, that's why they have lot numbers on them, because they want to track down where it went wrong. They have different production facilities all over the world. So that's why they put the lot numbers on there. And it's just because you bought, you might buy one at PetSmart and one on Chewy.com, you're going to get a different lot number because they're all being distributed differently. So definitely, yeah, good. I'm glad to hear your cat stopped eating Purina. Yeah. Right now, if you are feeding, we all agree, stop feeding. And if you need help transitioning your pet to another food, the group has recommendations. I know Jessica's going to have recommendations. And I think one of the things that we need to put people at ease, and Jessica's the perfect person to do this, is how we can ease any kind of discomfort from that immediate change. So like we use slippery elm. Obviously don't use Fortiflora for this, because usually we would say like some kind of probiotic will help. What recommendations do you have for people who are like, I don't want to switch my pet immediately because it's going to end up with diarrhea or vomiting? What do you recommend? Because it's not optional at this point. Like diarrhea and vomiting is better than the alternative.
It is. And the first thing I want to say about that is that it is the body's natural way of getting things out. So while I don't really want to stop it, like I know that is like our gut reaction is to just want to stop it. But at the same time, we do want to let the body do its thing. So like if it's going too long, or if it's severely uncomfortable for your animal, or just so
for you, like if your pet's having accidents all over your house and you're like flipping out about it.
Thank you so much for joining, guys. So for answer a couple of these questions. So the group is saving pets one pet at a time. If your animal is experiencing symptoms and you do think it is related to any food they're eating, join the group, report it in the group, report it to the FDA. I'll put a link in my stories after this on where you can report it to the FDA.
I'm also commenting now so that those who want to see, it's spelled with an @ symbol.
Yes. But yeah, so we can use foods that are natural probiotics, like a raw goat's milk is my favorite. A Saccharomyces boulardii is a wonderful probiotic that you can get easily on Amazon. There are also things that we can do to help alleviate some of the excess water in the body, which, if we think of diarrhea or vomiting, that's excess moisture coming out of the body, right? So chia seeds can help with that. I don't like to get too much in the weeds because I really think a lot of this can be individualized and should be individualized, including detoxing. I think should be individualized. There are some general recommendations for detoxing, like milk thistle, though there are some cases we might not want to use that. So again, individualized recommendations for detoxing. One of the best ways to detox is with fresh food. So that's almost always going to be something you can do with your animal, whether that is completely switching them over to a fresh food diet. And I have to say a balanced fresh food diet because, we don't want to get in trouble. Whether you're balancing every single meal or you're balancing over time, we do want to make sure that they are getting all of the nutrients that they need, and we're not just feeding them chicken and rice for the rest of their life. That's not what we're saying to do here. But
I mean, that's better than like a dangerous food. Yes, it's better than that.
Yeah.
If that's what you have, and you're going to go from whatever you're stopping feeding to chicken and rice, that's better than the alternative. Again, this is just what's better than a severe illness or death caused by an unknown contamination of a very popular
Oh my gosh. If you have a bag of Purina in your house right now and you're like, I can't get to the pet store for 2 days, please feed if you have a healthy adult dog or a healthy adult cat, boil up some chicken and feed it for a couple of days and then get back on a balanced
boil
food.
some eggs. Yeah. You've got pumpkin at the house. You've got eggs at the house. You've got chicken at the house. You've got a meal for your pet today for the next 2 days. And I'm sure they will not be angry with you for, whipping up something special for them. Rice isn't necessary. You don't need to go boil the rice. That's probably the most time consuming and the least rewarding part of that whole thing. So if you do have eggs and chicken and pumpkin, you're good, you're golden, and your pet's going to be thrilled. I mean, with your cat, you're going to be hard pressed to get them to eat that pumpkin. My cat won't touch it. He likes avocados and pesto, but he won't touch pumpkin. But there are things that you can do at home right now. Obviously, there are other foods you can go buy. At this point, this is not a quality of food issue. This could be a temporary 2-week thing that you feed until you find what you're moving to, more permanently. But, anything is better than what is suspected to be killing dogs and cats too. And for us, whenever I've seen a really bad inflammation from a food change, it was very short-lived usually. So don't freak out if there is some kind of reaction. It's normal that something new might unsettle the stomach. Pumpkin is a good one, milk thistle for any kind of detox. I use slippery elm and I buy it at Sprouts. It's the human one. I just sprinkle it on. There are dosages that you can find online. You don't have to buy pet specific supplements when it's something like this, because it is like a food, powdered food. So, you can figure stuff out. I'm sure Jessica would be happy to help. I'm happy to help too, send you some links. But really right now, since you're stopping right now, you need to find stuff locally. So you're going to have to be creative. And again, just go find a next best food, start feeding it immediately. Even if you start at half a portion, even if you fast your dog, don't feed them dinner and only feed them breakfast, whatever it is, you can make choices. This is your dog, your choice, or your pet, your choice. There are ways to alleviate that kind of shock to the system. Dogs can fast safely for 24 hours. I've had to do it to my dog for completely unrelated reasons. That is, again, better than the alternative. I know your pet's not going to be happy with you that you are not feeding them tonight, but the long-term benefit's going to be greater. So definitely don't put too much pressure on yourself for this. It is, oh yeah, the Crazy Cat Mom works at Petco. Actually, do you mind if I ask you a question, Crazy Cat Mom? Is Petco telling people when they go buy Purina right now not to buy that product? Or are they just letting it go off the shelves? That's something that I'd like to know. If you work for PetSmart, Chewy, or Petco, DM me if you don't want to do, say it publicly. But I'm curious as to what, Jarrow is. So I love Jarrow. Anything Jarrow is fantastic. I agree. So Trans Girl 12, she, just let me know what your pronouns are. She is saying that she likes the Jarrow formulas. I'm not going to pronounce that. For detox. Okay, perfect.
It's Saccharomyces boulardii, and it is wonderful.
Yes. And Jarrow is an excellent brand. I love Jarrow. Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, I think that, there are things locally, even in El Paso, where we don't have a lot of stuff. Like, you're in a much, like, I guess, more appointed place as far as pet parenting and like services are concerned. So I think that, if even in El Paso, where I feel like we don't get a lot of health stuff for humans or pets, we have some stuff to work with. So I think that if you get creative, you go to the store today, you can figure something out. Okay, so at Petco, they tend to push their own brand of food, but some customers are very adamant about what they want. Yeah, this is not a time to be adamant about what you want. And I know that it sounds like a lot of people are going to be like, oh, this sucks. I have to change this. I have to drop everything. Yes, I'm sorry to tell you that, but yes, you have to change things immediately. You have to drop everything and figure something out in the next 24 hours. We're not trying to be, make this a bigger deal than it is, but it is a big deal. It really can be a big deal. I asked the pet parents who are, mourning the loss of their pet because of a suspected, whatever issue is in this food that we haven't determined yet. So definitely it is inconvenient, but don't be the pet parent that says they've been on this for 5 years and they have to have this. This is a great opportunity if you think about it.
Yes, it is a really good opportunity. And I did also want to mention before we talk about this opportunity that we have here, that if your pet is exhibiting any of these symptoms, or if they just seem off to you, because you are the best indicator, like, your pet better than anybody else. So if they seem off to you, and I think that might even be a better way to describe it with cat, because cats are so good at hiding when they don't feel good. So much better than dogs are when they don't feel good. If they just don't seem right, if they just seem to be off, please go into your veterinarian and get blood work done and get a copy of their medical records to have on file. Because if this does turn out to be the bigger issue that a lot of people think it's going to be, you're going to want to have this information on hand, along with the lot number and however much of the food you can keep stored in your freezer or hopefully testing.
Transgirl wants to know, for cats, what should we notice about them? The biggest thing I think I've read is lethargy. Is kind of like, really, you see them really fatigued, really not feeling themselves, not wanting to engage. And if you are feeding Purina, like I am not, right? Like I just don't feed that. So let's say that it was the brand that I was feeding, I would call my vet. Because I have a relationship with my vet. Obviously, if you don't have an established relationship, it might be a little more difficult, but I would call my vet and I would say, they seem fine, but what would you recommend? And some vets may not even be aware. So you're helping spread the word by saying that. And I'm always the one who's bringing stuff to my vets, because obviously I'm a journalist that specializes in this industry, but I also feel like we need to keep each other abreast. Not everybody knows what's up. So I'm working. Remember, I told you that I'm working. This is Mila. We're talking about something very serious. Do you want to say hi?
We are. Hi.
So call your vet. And even if your vet, I think your vet, if you are feeding and you are seeing even the slightest bit of lethargy, I think even if your vet's like, it's okay, we'll keep an eye on it, go in and get blood work just in case. Have vitamin levels tested, have metals tested, whatever they can test in a routine office visit, have them
Mhm.
test it, because we don't know what is causing this. But the more blood work we can see, and anything that people are kind of seeing a common theme, that's going to get to the bottom of it quicker. We
Mhm.
can't just wait until Purina and the FDA do this,
Mm-mm.
because there's so much bureaucracy that it's never going to get resolved. So if you have
Yeah.
the means and you have a vet and you have a relationship with them, just go ahead and start this process. Like, that would be my next step, is to go to the vet and get some blood work.
Yeah, I mean, look at what they did with the whole DCM thing. They basically said, "Don't know."
Yeah.
Closed it.
After like demonizing brands, then they
Yeah.
decided that it was safe, or just
Yep.
not enough to, corroborate their concerns. In this
Right.
case, we have enough pet parents, honestly, saying that something is wrong to, I think, take this very seriously. And if it was like a handful, but Jessica, what was that, for those that joined us late, what was the last number on?
Yeah, and this is just in the last month. I believe it started like the information started coming in around the 5th or so of December. So this is literally just within the last month. And the counts this morning were 524 dogs, 141 cats ill, with 151 that have died. And the only thing that they all have in common is that they are eating some form of Purina food. So that's alarming in 1 month, in one Facebook group. That's alarm. That is seriously alarming.
And what's
So,
interesting is so many people still don't know, right? Because like we
yes.
know, and the people who join us for these conversations are like your like top-notch pet parent, pet pros. You know what I mean? Like people who are in the know. The average pet parent doesn't know. So the average pet parent may have a pet who's exhibiting all these things and has no idea. And the veterinarian they go to may not know, because again, it's not until it's a recall that it's really on everybody's radar. So just because you're not hearing more, it could be a lot more, right? It could be a ton more, but
Well,
the pet parent just doesn't know where to go.
Yeah, I mean, when we think of the biggest reporting system we know in the United States, at least the VAERS system for vaccine reactions for humans, that is the biggest reporting system I can think of off the top of my head, and they
Agreed.
estimate 1% is actually reported. So when we think about, and that's, I mean, people, you can say what you want about people caring about their health in the United States, but in general, people that have vaccine reactions are going to their doctor because something is wrong. Their doctors aren't reporting it, right? So when we think about like that level of awareness that we have, and then think about the level of awareness that the general public has to their pet's health, significantly less. Now, you and I and the people listening and watching to us, our level of awareness is really, really high. But when we think about the average pet parent, and so we're looking at right now the US, Canada, UK, and Ireland, it's significantly lower, right? You're just not as aware, especially people like they work 10 hours a day and they come home and like they don't even know that their dog has been moping around sick all day. Like that happens. So and likely they're not in a bunch of pet health Facebook groups. They have no idea this is going on. They're not reporting anything. If their dog is throwing up or has diarrhea, they may just be like, oh, it'll go away in 24 hours. And then they might wind up at the vet next week because it's not going away. But I mean, I say all of this to say this is probably such a small percentage of what is actually happening. And that's why I don't feel like this is at all fearmonger. Like I am not trying to fearmonger anybody into doing
sensationalize, right? Or sensationalize,
No.
because that's the thing. Like in journalism, if it bleeds, it leads.
Right.
Unfortunately, you're not going to see a lot of media outlets pick this up because they don't want to vilify a brand that's probably one of their bigger sponsors without any proof, right? Like once it is a recall, once the FDA is involved, then they're safe. They can report this and everybody's going to find out. But we don't want you to wait that long because your pet may not be, have the help they need in order to fix whatever this is, especially from a veterinarian perspective. Like, they don't know what they're treating.
Right. And the thing is,
And yeah, the answer to your question is yes, this is going to be saved so you can share it. So thank you. And Rachel Fasaro has been covering this as well. Dr. Judy Morgan, Dr. Katie Woodley. There's a lot of places that are covering it. But again, we need to share these things so that people who are not in these groups already can learn about them as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for offering to share this.
Thank you, yes.
We really appreciate it because we do want more and more pet parents. Like we see this from multiple creators everywhere,
Exactly.
but the average pet parent may not have seen anything. So please do share whatever you see, whether it's from us or another creator.
Yes.
Because this has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with the pets that are eating. We say Purina, but as Isabel said at the beginning, if this is a supplier issue, who else is that supplier sending this product to? We don't know yet.
It sucks. It's so scary because I do feed kibble. I feed half kibble, half freeze-dried raw. And I'm already thinking, like, what could be in here? Thankfully, it's not 100% of their diet, right? So if they're getting some kind of contaminant or some kind of excess vitamin or whatever it is, they're getting 50% of what another dog of the same size would be getting. So, right. So like when you diversify your pet's food, you really are reducing the risk just because of the amount, the portions that they're eating of each food. Right. So I feel a little bit better about that, but it is scary. And it is scary that like dogs are getting, the coverage, but like even cat people may not be aware because they're not in these groups. Like maybe as somebody who worked with dog and cat people for a long time, dog and cat people are very different. Mm-hmm. They may be more, involved as, new puppy parents, whereas like an experienced cat parent who's had cats 20 years is not really looking for advice on groups. So like, it's hard to get it out to everybody. And it's hard because like I'm friends with people, personal friends with people. And I shared something the second that I got an email from Dr. Judy Morgan. You and I communicated. I shared it on my personal profile. I have like 2,500 friends there. And I know for a fact, 2 of those friends, are my personal friends in person. And then this morning, after I wrote a blog for one of my clients about this particular issue, kind of just like a little, overview, I shared it in a local group. And those 2 friends of mine did not see the post that I posted like Friday when this all came out. Mm. And I know that because they both like wow emojied to it, right? Like, oh no, they had not seen what I posted. So because of the algorithm too, like we're not receiving all the information that it might be pertinent to us. So thankfully I shared it in their group. Like it's their local real estate group. And they obviously as admins saw it, but again, what we share only reaches certain people. I texted a bunch of my girlfriends who are animal lovers. I texted them today. So like, it's not just about social media, like get in touch with your mom who has a dog or your neighbors, your next door group, share it in those kind of places, this or anything that you want to share, just so that you're getting the word out and you're kind of, the more we share it, the more the algorithm will pick it up until they won't because of, vested interest, but that's different.
Yeah. And of course it is all speculation right now. I know that there are people looking to get as much of this food tested as possible. Nestle is a big company.
Yeah.
So finding labs without connections to Nestle is important in getting this food tested. And from what I'm understanding, again, this is speculation, is that it's based on the symptoms, seems to be heavy metal toxicity. And you can get that tested through a hair mineral analysis test. And you can even do that at home. You can order these tests to do at home, but do not wait to stop feeding the food.
Yeah. Get that hair now. Get the hair now. Put it in a baggie. Save it for when you get the test. All that, because it is just the follicle that they need to test. You can do all those things, but the most important thing is, stop feeding the food. get some slippery elm or some whatever you want, and just like help
Yes.
your pet
Yes.
transition, fast them, whatever. And remember that it's not just, luckily, I will say that Purina on their logos seems to put like Purina and the name of whatever product it is, because they really are proud
Or
of
the
their brand.
their checkerboard thingy.
Yeah, exactly.
The red
So like,
and white. Yeah.
look for that somewhere. Obviously, if you don't see it, just kind of go back and see it. Is it still a Nestle company? I don't know. Like, do you want to go and be that careful? You might.
You might. Yeah.
You might. It's completely up
But
to you, but
again,
something to consider.
yeah, and I think this is such a big opportunity. Like, it is absolutely tragic. I don't want a single animal to be harmed by any means for any reason. But the reality is that every time that something like this happens, and this happens far too often, but every time something like this happens, it is a huge opportunity for pet parents to wake up and realize, number one, these big companies have, like, their best interest is in increasing profits for their board members quarter after quarter. It is not in the health of your pet. If anybody who has already my understanding is that people that have already contacted Purina are being offered like $10 vouchers. Like, and then when you accept that, you're signing off that you will never sue them, that you will never come back on this, blah blah blah. Yeah. I don't know if they're doing any like NDAs or gag, or I have no idea. It's very possible, but do not, like, for that reason, a lot of people are now saying don't even contact Purina, because you're going to wind up in this, like, this back and forth with somebody whose entire job is to get you to go away and shut up.
Yeah, and honestly, like, from a business's perspective, like, they don't have any proof. This is just hearsay. No. So like, why bother calling them? Like, they're not gonna, unless it's proven by the FDA or a recall or something. Don't bother. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your time, because they're gonna say we don't know anything about it, because they don't. Right? They know the anecdotal evidence that we all know.
Yes. Absolutely. But it is a big opportunity, one, to wake pet parents up, and two, to improve the food that is in your pet's bowl, because you're already aware that you can no longer, or should no longer, be feeding what you're feeding. And so take this opportunity to improve on what you're doing, whether that is switching to a different kibble and adding some fresh foods. So we can add some fresh foods that are going to be very beneficial to the body for liver support, for detox, like the probiotics that are for gut health, like raw goat's milk is my favorite. I'm just going to say that over and over again. Like every time anybody ever talks to me.
And it's one ingredient, right? It's one ingredient. Right. So like, that's the beauty of these simple ingredient foods and single ingredient treats. It's one ingredient. Yes. So like, you don't have to worry about the 25,000 things that went into that piece of kibble. And I said 25,000 exaggerated, but not really. If you really start breaking it down, I may be close. Who knows? But yeah, it's raw goat's milk. You usually can find it in any kind of specialty pet retailer, in the freezer area usually. I have a hard time finding it here in El Paso, but you can also ask at Whole Foods if they have any. Yeah, Whole Foods might have it. So that's usually, they have it on and off here. It just depends on their supplier, their distributor, whatever.
Yeah, I know. I pretty much order everything. I call up and I'm like, I'm placing an order, and then they have to order it from the distributors, but it shows up.
Yeah.
And then dark leafy greens, spinach, broccoli. I mean, these are wonderful things. Like, chop them up, put them in the food processor, parboil them, do something to start to break down that cell wall. Add them to your dog's meal. That is wonderful for first of all, just the nutrients that they're getting from those dark leafy greens, but also really wonderful detox and liver support there as well. So, a really good opportunity to, if you have the time, make your dog's food. Reach, especially if you have a dog that is suffering from some sort of illness or disease. This is an excellent time to reach out to a canine nutritionist and get a customized plan for your dog, whether that is cooking, whether that is putting together DIY raw meals, whether that is putting some sort of hybrid together that also includes commercially available foods, and removing as many synthetics as possible is also going to be really beneficial to the body. So, working with a nutritionist to get synthetics out of the diet, this is just such a good opportunity for pet parents to, just take this and say, "Wow, I'm awake now. Let me do this for my pet."
Yeah.
It's really, it's one of the most incredible things that you can do for if we think about what food is to humans, like when we travel and we see and we experience the different foods and we experience how cultures interact with food, foods, the kitchen is the heart of the home, right? That's a very well-known saying. And when we include our pets in that, it's such a wonderful opportunity to bond with them and to include them as part of the family.
Her phone is dead.
Aww.
It's a good thing she has a huge playroom with a ton of toys she doesn't want to play with. I'm sorry about that interruption, but I will say that Dr. Judy Morgan, a couple things, I guess, from updating, because I'm just reading this post here in the group. They're collecting reports, vet records, lab testing foods, all volunteers or us paying out of pocket to try to get answers. The faster we can narrow down a contaminant, the more pets we can help. She also has a recommended list of pet foods on her website. Obviously, these are higher. If she's going to recommend them, they're higher end, better quality foods. So you have to check with your budget if that's doable. It might be doable for a month or two. And honestly, the benefits of feeding that for 2 months is great. Like your pet will really enjoy those 2 months, and it does help the body, even if it is 2 months. So Dr. Judy Morgan is a great resource. For another person to consider is Susan Thixon, who does remind me what the name of her list is. I download it every year, but
it's just called The List.
Yeah.
And it's at truthaboutpetfood.com.
Truth About Pet Food. If you go to her website, the main page is, it's truthaboutpetfood.com. She has a click here to buy the list. It is donation based. So you give what you can. There's a recommendation of, I think, $10, but you can go higher or lower. And she has that list is updated every year, and it's for cats and dogs. Again, these are higher quality foods because they're literally recommending them. And these are experts in our field, and they're, nutritionists who understand what goes in these things. So if you're on a budget right now, even if you go to Costco and just get a bag of the Costco food, hopefully it's not, well, you know what, actually, we don't know what it is, right? Don't do Kirkland. No, so that just came to me. So if you're feeding Kirkland or Sam's Club brand foods, then and Walmart, you might need
out
to
of the diamond processing plants. Yeah.
Well, no, and it could be Purina with a Kirkland brand on it. Yeah. So yikes. That just dawned on me as I said it. Don't go to Costco unless you can verify the actual brand, right? Like it's not Purina, and it's not like a third-party brand where they just slap a label on it.
Yeah, not a white label brand. And that's where it gets really, really tricky. So yeah, I would work off of a recommended list if possible. I've opened up my DMs. If you want to reach out to me, I will do my best to, work in your budget. A lot of times I find here's the thing, you're either going to spend time or you're going to spend money. That's the way it is with everything in life.
Yes, that's so true. Yes.
So you're either going to spend the money to get a higher quality brand that isn't Purina, that isn't white labeled, that is or you're going to spend the time in preparing food, because the cost to prepare food at home for your pet generally is pretty comparable to whatever you're feeding, especially if you are feeding even a mid-level kibble, because a lot, like there are prescription Purina plans on the list that are causing issues with these animals. And think about what you're paying for a prescription.
Oh my gosh.
Pet food.
The biggest
They're
racket on the
expensive.
planet. Yes.
It is such a huge racket. Absolutely. But if you think about what you're spending for that, and to buy something comparable, or to put that money into preparing a home prepared meal for your dog, it's time or money, one or the
Yeah.
other. So make that
Yeah.
decision, and then you can move forward.
Yeah, and it's always easier to say that when you have like a small dog, right? Like I have a 50-pound dog and I have one, right? So right now what I can afford is different than what I can afford when I had 4 dogs and 3 of them were over 50 pounds, right? So you have to obviously be realistic with what you can do. At this point, I personally would just be all about knowing where that food came from, who's the, just because it has Isabel's kibble on it doesn't mean that Isabel made it. So kind of doing a little bit of your due diligence, checking your food, even if it doesn't say Purina on it, look at the fine print at the bottom of the bag, like distributor kind of thing. Just take a little look at your food. If you know the brand that you're feeding off the top of your head, just do a Google search on it, right? Like any current recalls, any current issues, and go on groups and see if anybody's talking about Victor brand or Candidate brand or whatever other brands that might be out on the market. Obviously, she couldn't wait 3 more minutes. 3 more minutes. So my daughter is Mila. Mila is almost 4, and she really wanted to wear a dress today, but I had made the mistake of washing it. So the second I ran the laundry, she decided she wanted to wear that dress. It literally was getting like prepared to launder as she's having this realization. So now we are standing by for it to dry so she can wear it. And it's not a dress, it's actually gymnastics costume, right? Yeah. This is life with a 3.5-year-old, right? I'll get it in 3 minutes.
With a fashionista 3.5-year-old.
She's not going anywhere. So anyway, does anybody have any questions for us before we wrap up? Before this little hostage
and our
takes
time
over here?
Yes, our times are going to change for the next few weeks.
Yes.
I don't know when yet, but they're going to change.
So I'm going to be in Spain for 3 weeks. I am going over there for family reasons, and it's like 7 hours ahead of your time, Jessica.
Okie dokie.
So 7 hours ahead means that if I did this time, I'd be waking up at like middle of the night. So
yeah,
thank you. No questions. Actually, the Crazy Cat Mom, since you work for Petco, keep us posted if you see anybody posting anything, any of the management, doing any education on it. We'd love to hear it. I've always been a huge fan of Petco. They do a lot of positive-based training. They're of all the large retailers, they're my favorite. So I'd love to hear how they handle it moving forward. If you want to share, if you're allowed to share, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't, but what I heard, it sounded very, thank you. Yeah. Well, we will post this so you can go back and watch it.
Oh, awesome. Yay, you're the trainer.
Oh, yay. Yeah. I can't imagine they'll do anything proactively, just because, I mean, fun, that's where the money comes from.
Right. And honestly, like from a business's perspective, you can't take responsibility for something that you're not sure.
Yeah.
I think that, let's say Green Juju, who we know personally, if something were to come out, they'd be like, okay, we're going to be really proactive about this, because that's just their mentality and their company mission and culture. But these huge conglomerates, obviously we live in such a litigious society that they're going to cover their as long as they can. And so we need to cover our dogs and cats as long as we can. So, it's not about putting blame. It's about being proactive. And especially if your pet is on this food and is showing any kind of symptoms, any kind of off, low
Yeah.
energy, throwing up. If you go into the group that we keep referencing, there are people sharing
Yes.
stories, like small bouts of like throwing up, some diarrhea, just gastrointestinal, but they're otherwise fine. Something is going on. And actually, before we wrap up, Jess, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
When it comes to like heavy metal toxicity, if that were it, what is usually responsible for that? What ingredient could that be coming from? Any ideas?
Oh my gosh.
Could it be in the meat? Could it
It
be in the grains? Do we know? Could be all of it.
That's such a good question. I mean, my gut goes to the premix, but you know, they use such poor quality ingredients to begin with. You know, I wouldn't necessarily think it would come directly from, say, an animal or a plant source, unless that even if that animal, say the feed that animal ate was highly contaminated, it would still not be, I
Such high
wouldn't think it
levels.
would be so significant.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that they couldn't, where they're getting whether it's the plant material or the animal material from, doesn't have some sort of cross contamination.
Right.
That could be an issue in itself. But oftentimes, I mean, I would say more often than not, unless it's a pathogenic bacteria, any of these other recalls that we've seen, whether it's an excess vitamin D or a vitamin A or whatever it is, it's a premix problem. And the thing is that these companies are supposed to test the product when they get it in. So they're supposed to test the premix when they get it in to make sure it is what it says it is, and test and hold. They're supposed to test and hold the final product to make sure it is what it says it is. Yeah. That's the regulation that they are supposed to be following, but nobody is enforcing the regulation. That's the problem. So it's either some sort of cross-contamination or the premix is bad.
So if it is, this is something interesting. If it is heavy metals, maybe lead or something like that, I wonder if the Lead Safe Mama has been contacted to do, because she studies stuff herself, and
Girl,
she has like a huge following about
she
heavy
does
metals
have a huge following, and I love her so much. And I was so sad to see her post about my precious Stanley.
If you don't know Lead Safe Mama, she's amazing. I mean, she's the reason I spent a fortune on my kids' shoes the first 3 years, because lead is in a lot of stuff that we use every day. So completely unrelated to this food issue, heavy metals are in our products all the time, and they are at levels that are super unsafe, and we still keep using them. So I wonder if I'm gonna go do a little deep dive on her site and see if she said anything or if anybody's brought this to her attention, because it would be cool to see a little crossover with the Lead Safe Mama and like Dr. Judy Morgan or something.
Yeah, so, I mean, if that's what it is, I think it's hard to say that's what it is, or even to throw out that speculation before testing is done. But
and that's what she does. She does everything. She does, she tests everything, literally everything. If you have something that has some kind of metal on it, like a Stanley Cup, and you want it tested, that's what she does. So yeah, she's awesome. She has a baby bottle guide. She has a ton of stuff.
Yeah. So again, just to end out, symptoms to look for. Regardless if there are symptoms or if there are not symptoms, stop feeding it. However, symptoms to look for: lethargy, vomiting, diarrhea, seizures. By the way, and I didn't mention this earlier, Isabel and I both are such huge fans of CBD dog health. So please onboard that for seizure dogs, period. Yes. Rapid weight loss, muscle weakness, excessive urination, rectal bleeding, vomiting with blood, so bloody vomit, and then red and or yellow eyes. So yeah, and that is those are all pretty serious symptoms. So please.
And the good news, I guess let's end it on a good note. Those that have caught it in time and have immediately stopped, have seen their pet do well. So it's,
Yes.
that is the biggest thing, is stopping it and before it's too late, and
Yes.
knowing that it is, if it's something that they're eating that's making them sick, that has a heavy metal or a high level of vitamins or something like that, we don't know what it is, it will be out of their system in due time, so they will recover, so long as it doesn't do too much damage before you catch it. So that's why we're urging everybody to just stop, follow Dr. Judy Morgan, send her, if you want to, if you want to donate to having, things tested, maybe in honor of a pet that you lost or something. If you want to learn more, Dr. Judy Morgan, Dr. Katie Woodley, and who else did we say?
So I know Dr.
Angela
Josie View
Ardolino's
is,
doing some stuff. Angela's been doing some stuff too.
So
CBD Dog Health.
yeah, and then later this week I will post it in my stories once I get the link to it. Bronwyn, who is Dulce's Legacy, Angela Ardolino and Dr. Loudon are going to be doing a live on detoxing. So again, I'm a big proponent for individualized detox, but in situations like this, it is important to get out as much good information as we can. And even if your dog or cat is not experiencing any of these symptoms right now, again, can't say this enough, stop
It's not
feeding
worth it.
Purina. You can do a simple milk thistle detox even with no symptoms. That's completely I mean, for most animals, completely harmless. And if your dog or cat does have symptoms, a more individualized detox protocol should be followed. That includes, and Dr. Katie Woodley is a really good one to follow for detox protocols. She does a lot. She works with a lot of animals who have excess metals in their body. We just all wind up in these like spaces where somehow we so for whatever reason, Dr. Katie Woodley is in that space where she does get a lot of animals who need heavy metal detoxing. So she has a lot of good blogs on.
And she's done it for humans too. So she has a really profound understanding of what it takes, what it is, what it means, what the ranges are that are supposed to be healthy and what they actually should be. She has a really good understanding. And the other person that I forgot to mention is Rachel Fasaros. She has been she's on YouTube as well. She's been doing some discussions. She's been having some discussions on it. So just keep the conversation going so that your friends and family also find out about this if they're not super into, the pet space. Just get the word out. And it doesn't have to be this video, just any video, any blog, anything, just share so that people can stop immediately. That is the recommendation. I think we've made that clear. I think everybody who's sharing that is making that clear. Stop immediately. Just don't take the risk. It's not worth it.
It is not worth it. So we will, when we post for next week, we'll have an updated time.
It'll probably be like 10 or 11 a.m.
Yeah. Yes. That's what, so yeah, I think we did say when we were talking about it, 11 a.m. Central, because I have a standing 9:30.
Yes, exactly.
So probably 11 a.m. for the next,
we'll see.
Next few weeks.
Yes.
And let us know. Yeah, if you have any like recommendations of things you want us to talk about, because right now we're just like, I want to talk about this.
Yeah, if you have any questions about anything, or we can just talk about, this is the pet news roundup. So like the weekly pet roundup. So we kind of go off the news, what the news is discussing and what we want to share and what our perspectives are on different pet related news stories. So if you find any cool pet related news stories, I'm always up for reading, especially if they're weird or interesting or international and they don't, they're kind of obscure and they don't get a lot of publicity. We'd love to hear about it. Oh, thanks for tuning in. It was nice to meet you, a fellow positive dog trainer and pet lover and crazy cat mom. We're all of those things.
All of those things. I am like the least crazy I've ever been right now with only 4 cats. Oh my God. Anyway, all right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, check stories for links, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye. Bye, everybody on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.